I get a magazine called The Northern Gardener, published by the Minnesota State Horticulture Society. One of the articles in the magazine was titled A World Under Glass, and it was about the conservatory at the University of Minnesota. And I just had to find out more. So I contacted Jared Rubenstein, and he said we could come for a tour. Thanks so much, Jared, for letting us come and ask questions and showing us all of the neat plants here.
You're very welcome. Thanks for coming.
Now, tell me about what is the conservatory?
So this is called the College of Biological Sciences Conservatory and Botanical Collection. We're part of the College of Biological Sciences here, and we're primarily a teaching resource for departments within that college, which means that we support research and education, not just in the college, but really at the entire university. So we do that in a couple of different ways. We bring groups into our space for tours and activities. We bring plants from our potted permanent collection to lab courses for dissection or observation, and then any plant material that's used in a CBS lab course for an experiment, we grow all that plant material as well. So we're primarily a teaching tool for the college, but we're also a publicly accessible plant conservatory and a resource for really anyone else at the university.
How long has this been here?
So this facility was opened in 2020 and then promptly closed for the pandemic and reopened just last fall to the public. So this particular facility has only been around for about 4 years. Prior to this facility, there was another one on the St. Paul campus that was built in the 70s. And then before that, we can trace the lineages of these University of Minnesota greenhouses all the way back to the late 19th century when the first greenhouse was built, showing, I think, the university's recognition of the utility of having a live plant that you can touch and interact with and smell for students to learn with. There are only so many months out of the year where you can do that outside. So really since the beginning, the university has shown this understanding of having plants under glass that students can interact with and study. Most of the plants we have in here are not from the United States. Most of them are from other parts of the world. We're trying to show the people of Minnesota what the plants of the world look like, not what the plants of Minnesota look like. It's very difficult to import live plants into the United States. It's much easier to import seeds than it is live plants. So seed collectors can go around the world, get permits, bring those back, grow them, and then distribute plants among other botanical collections. So some come from other gardens, which is great. Some come from specialty nurseries that we just buy plants from. And then sometimes we can even import seeds from seed nurseries around the world and grow them ourselves. Once we have a plant, we can just propagate it and get as many as we want, as long as it's not too difficult to propagate.
What is your background and what do you do here at the conservatory?
Sure. So I grew up in the Pacific Northwest in Seattle, and I moved to Minnesota for graduate school. I have a master's degree in horticulture from the university from here. I left for a while and lived in New England and worked at the Arnold Arboretum there and a couple of botanic gardens in Pennsylvania, and then moved back here to start working at the conservatory. So my title is curator of the conservatory, and I manage the space, I supervise our student staff, and I try to keep everything alive.
How in the world do you keep track of all of the plants that are here?
So every plant should have a tag in it. We try to keep track of everything by making sure everything is labeled. We also have a plant records database. So each plant gets a distinct identifying number. One way to think about it is this is a collection of objects, just like an art museum has a collection of paintings. Our objects are alive, so this is a living collection. So we try to keep track of each object as though it's, you know, its own piece of art.
Do you still add plants to the collection too?
We do. We are limited by space, obviously, so when we get to capacity, we have to get rid of things before we can add anything. But we do add plants occasionally. We have a couple of criteria to help us decide if we can accept a new plant or if we should acquire a new plant. So if a plant is from the part of the world that we're representing in our biomes, that's one way. If a plant is particularly useful for teaching or for research at the university, then we'll acquire and keep those plants alive. Or if there's a plant that's maybe of really high conservation value or helps us round out maybe our taxonomic diversity, then we might try to acquire that as well.
So when you get a new plant, do you have to keep it in isolation for a little while?
We usually try to, depending on where it comes from, if we know, the person who it came from and we know maybe they have good practices. We're often trying to avoid introducing any insect pests in some of these plants. So if we buy things from a local nursery, just because there's so much diversity at nurseries, that's probably the highest risk. So yes, often we'll keep a plant maybe outside for a little while. We'll try to clean it or examine it. Worst case scenario, we can apply some insecticides, but usually we'll just keep it separate for a while until we're pretty confident that it doesn't have any insect pests, or sometimes, maybe a fungal disease or a virus that displays. We don't want to introduce that into the space.
So are your plants here grown in pots or in the ground or both?
Both. So we have our space is divided in half. We have an in-ground half that we'll go to, and we've got this potted half that we're on right now. These plants that are in pots, these are plants that we can move around. So we can bring these to class, we can bring these to various labs, or we can offer them for research. Plants over here, we can't move, so those are in the ground. Those represent biogeographic collections where the plants are from very specific parts of the world only, and we can tell very specific stories about evolution or plant diversity or ecology.
So the plants on that side, is that what you refer to as biomes?
Yeah, so each of those rooms is referred to as a particular biome. So biomes are just parts of the world where the climate leads to a particular population of animals and plants. So a couple examples of biomes would be a desert biome or a tropical forest or a temperate forest. Those are different kinds of biomes. So we've divided up the conservatory into some of these different biomes around the world, and then tried to select geographic areas where those biomes are duplicated but in different parts of the world to show, again, the people of Minnesota what plants in those biomes look like, different from our biome here in Minnesota.